Yeah, so I'll start with some of those questions, but also just, there's other stuff you just kind of want to share.
Mm-hmm.
So you already shared something about yourself, so I think I've kind of got some ideas there. But in terms of the book Press Play and the
Yep.
audiobook, like what was the inspiration behind that? Like how did that kind of
Come
how did you
about.
come to write that?
Yeah. So I think it was more of I think the main thing I was trying to do was learn the process of writing and publishing a book. Um, just to give you some background, so in 2016, I just finished business school. I produce music, so I make
Mm.
beats, right? I was thinking of making another like mixtape, right? So I decided to, okay, let me make this mixtape just as I've been doing for the last, at that point, 3 years. Um, but this time around, I wanted to be more intentional. So I was like, okay, I'll make a mixtape um, that has a story, like a
Mm.
concept mixtape, right? Then I was like, okay, let me first write the story before I make the mixtape. And then I started researching how to write stories, and I ended up going down this 3 year rabbit hole of writing a story, right, for this mixtape. And eventually, when was it, 2019, I got to a point where I had a lot of words on paper, but I just didn't know where to go. I didn't know if the story made sense. I didn't know. I know I'm doing this in like almost in a black box, right? So I told a friend about this, and he told me about like a writing workshop, writing class that I could sign up for. So when I signed up for the class, it's called the Creators Institute. They help people through the writing process and help connect you with their publisher, which is New Degree Press. And just talking to the person, so there's a professor from Georgetown that teaches this class, and he does like a 30-minute consultation just to hear what you have to say before you go on this journey. And while I was telling him about this mixtape and writing this fictional story for 3 years, um, he then kind of pushed me. It was like, so what are you trying to achieve? Who inspires you? What kind of change do you want to see in the world? And I ended up talking about, my love for music, the musicians that I feel have changed the world, how they inspire me, how they make me feel, blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, oh, so why don't you just write a story about music and how it shapes our society and helps us become better, right? And so I was like, okay, true. Should I write? Is this the fictional story or something else? So it was like, yeah, put the fictional story aside for a second and go out there and interview like musicians that you like, and write the story, a non-fiction story about music and the impact on our society. And at that point, it was a very interesting topic for me. And as I said, I was just looking for someone to teach me how to write a book. So I was just like, okay, I'll use this opportunity to learn and come back to finishing my story later on. And so I think in July, I signed up for the class, wrote the first manuscript, interviewed people, interviewed musicians, had to get on Instagram, try and meet people. Um, got the first manuscript down by November or something. So about like a 4 month process. Um, they
Wow.
in the class they teach you like the process of different writing structures, different storylines, different the hero's journey, all that stuff. And yeah, got some feedback on how to improve it. Then went through the revision process between January and let's say March. I think March. And through that process, you do the cover design and all that stuff, and published in April to 2020. So the entire thing was about 9 months. Yeah. So it was a very, and finally you publish, and then you have to market the book, and going through that. So I eventually got what I signed up for, which was to learn the publishing process. So and a very good book too coming out of it. So which I'm very proud of. So it was a good experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's also a pretty impressive timeline, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know you had the 3 years of sort of researching, but then it sounds like when you actually started writing, like, that's pretty quick, 9 months to
Yeah,
go from like first draft
I
to
know.
published.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned with the class, was that like in person? Was that online?
It was
Was that
online.
online?
I was still traveling
Mm.
between California and
Mm.
Nigeria, so sometimes it'll be 2 p.m., sometimes it'll be 11 p.m.
Make it work.
Yeah, I gotta make it work. So it was good. You know, I think the main thing was that being someone holding you accountable.
Mm.
Because for me, I could have just kept on writing that story till for 10 years, who knows, thinking, oh, I just want to make it perfect, you know. But someone telling you have to turn this in the next 2 weeks, even when you don't want to write, like you just end up writing stuff. You're just like, okay, I just have to write this stuff and get something in front of this person. So I think that was the accountability was very powerful.
Yeah, I definitely relate to the like, this could be 10 years because I'm trying to make it perfect. It keeps on getting longer and longer. And I'm like, and I'm on version like 5,000 or something.
I
So
know, yeah.
yeah.
I have like mine was like V11. Like I was on version 11 by that point. I was like, okay, this needs to stop.
Yeah. And in terms of so is it with the Creators Institute, because I'm not familiar
Uh-huh.
with them, and the New Degree Press, so are they helping you kind of self-publish, or are they like a publisher themselves, or sort
So
of somewhere
yeah,
in
so
between?
in between. So they
Mm.
describe themselves like this hybrid publishing. So
Mm.
it's not self-publishing where you write everything and you take your book on Amazon and
Mm.
upload it all by yourself. At the same time, it's not the full-time publishing where they take your will I say IP,
Mm.
put it out there and give you royalties. No, so I own the complete all royalties for the
Mm.
work.
Mm.
Um, the hybrid portion is them bringing in their expertise to guide, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's guidance in terms of having a development editor who would help you structure your writing, make sure it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, having a marketing editor who, when you're going towards publication, helps you bring out like marketing bits that you can use to
Mm.
publicize your book. Also bringing in like cover designers that will
Mm.
help design your cover,
Yeah.
because the cover is very, very important. People judge
Mm.
books by covers, actually.
Mm-hmm.
um, but I think the main thing also is also them helping you with your crowdfunding campaign. So what they do
Mm.
is, um, before you release the book, they help you produce this video
Mm.
about what you're writing, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
did this, let's say using that timeline, I did this in November, right?
Mm-hmm.
Produce a video that you then put up on Kickstarter or Indiegogo.
Mm.
Um, and you just have like a target. So if you get to $6,000, you get to publish or if you get $4,000, you publish a paperback. If you get to
Mm.
$6,000, you publish a paperback and hardcover. If you get to $8,000, you publish paperback, hardcover, and audiobook. And then you go out there and just try to sell this to your communities, to your
Mm.
friends, to your family members. And the thing about it is because most people want to see, well, people that like you want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
Um, they would get behind the journey,
Mm.
because not a lot of people get to see, just like how you're doing, not a lot of people get to see the journey of someone writing a book. So a bunch of people would get behind that, right? And then basically all that money you raise is then used to pay the development editor, the cover designer, um, the marketing person,
Mm.
and then helps you produce your first set of books, which you then send to the people that backed your campaign, right?
Yeah. So I was going to
Which
say, because then you kind of get like immediate readers as well, I guess. So
exactly,
you're like
exactly.
asking them, yeah, donate however much you can,
Yep,
you'll get a book, and
exactly.
yeah.
You get all these perks, and
Mm.
one of the good things is also the people that joined the
Mm.
crowdfunding campaign then became beta readers.
Mm.
So before the book actually got published, they got early chapters and they could give me feedback and say, okay, this doesn't make sense. This makes sense. Take this out. So people already kind of even buying before you finish, which again, that also adds another level of accountability because now you have to get the book out there,
Yeah.
right? You have to ship the books at this point. So so that's where that hybrid model comes in. So I think they just come in with mainly with the guidance and helping publish the book.
Oh, that's really helpful. I hadn't heard of that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, I guess because that sort of like speaks to some of the other questions, but I suppose, yeah, one question is, if you, A, do you have plans to write more books? And B, if you do, will you use that process again? Or do you think you try and do it differently this time? Like, would you still go to the Creators Institute and kind of follow that
that
structure?
path?
Yeah. Or would you try something differently this time?
So basically, obviously, as I said, I went in to learn that process. And once I came out, the natural thing is not like, okay, I know the process. I can now do this by myself if I wanted to. But there's a lot of also stress involved with trying to do all that. So just to actually answer the question clearly, like I am writing another book. I'm actually finishing that fictional story, finally.
Oh, nice.
It's coming together. In fact, I just turned in the manuscript last week. And I'm using the Creators Institute and the same publisher. So just going through the process again. This time around, the main thing I wanted beyond the cover design, the marketing editor was the first stage, and that was working with the development editor. That was like I just needed someone to validate the story, kind of, because as you just like your story, right? You've been writing it, my wife has read it. She read it 3-4 years ago when it was like draft one, right? And nobody has read it since then.
Yeah.
So having someone else read it and saying, "Oh, this makes sense," or "Oh, this is a good story," is just a huge huge validation for me, and just gives me more confidence to be like, "All right, let me put this out there." So the process this time around is less tedious because it's not like I'm starting from scratch like the first time. But it has helped me refine the manuscript to a point where, yeah, I think if I keep going by August, I can publish the second book.
Wow, I'm so impressed. I'm like, you're just churning them out. I think
man, back to back. I'm going back to back, man.
I guess what I think well, I'm curious to hear more about this fictional book. So is it still on the theme of music, or like how is it how does it differ to press play? How's it
press play? It's connected a little bit. So even when I wrote press play, I referenced the book because I told people the reason I'm writing this book is because I'm writing this mixtape, the whole story, right? So the book, when I started the book, right, again, mixtape, I need a story, right? Then I was like, all right, what story am I going to write about? And I was like, I'm just going to write a story about a guy trying to write a story, right? And I was like, I'm just going to basically borrow from whatever I'm observing in my life about writing the story and use that to kind of inform the story itself. And so the story is really about the guy trying to write a story at the end of the but it has different things in there. It has things about like him trying to break away from the stronghold of his corporation that stops him from actually following this interest or passion. Talking about like it's based in the year 2049, so it's supposed to be somewhat futuristic. So it's talking about how technology also has evolved, and now there's more inequality in the world because of automation used not for the people but kind of against the people. and how following your interest, following your curiosity, and writing stories and using music based on vibrations. And I'm not good. Let me not get too deep into that, but yeah, how that can help us just be more human and just, will I say, build on what we have to be human, which is just our cognition, basically. Um, and yeah, that's, will I say, the full circle of the story. Will I, the baseline of a guy trying to write a story. Did he write a story? That's yet to be found out.
I like it. It's very philosophical, and I
Mhm.
think yeah, that I think that's really cool that it's also set in the future. Is it set in the US or Nigeria or somewhere
No,
else?
it's to be honest, it's almost like a world that I haven't. There was no real name to it. So it's just
Mm.
kind of, yeah. No, there was no particular location. So it's
Mm.
kind of, there was a high town and there was a low town.
Mm. So
Kind
kind
of.
of um like dystopia a bit, like
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. Yeah. So it was going through that process.
Mm.
It makes me almost like, I feel more confident about
Mm.
what I have now. Right. It's completely different from press play because press play is more non-fiction. This is fiction, right? So almost two different audiences, two different ways of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I really, at least I want to believe that this would be better than what I wrote in press play. So I think now I'm looking back at press play almost like, oh man, it served a purpose. It got me to this point.
That's really cool.
Hmm. Thanks.
Um I think that's advice, like I've read that advice, where it's always like don't get too hung up on like the
Hmm.
first book, like it's all
Yeah, yeah,
part of
yeah,
like the
yeah.
journey, but I think it's so much harder to actually
Do
believe
it,
it.
right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I know. Especially when, after I put press play out and
Mm.
all the work that goes into actually selling the book
Mm.
and getting it out there, then you just realize like this is, if you want to keep going down this path, this
Mm.
has to be one of many, right?
Mm.
You almost have to put this one out and get to the next one and keep going. Like I've taken a couple of, while I was writing, I was taking a couple of master classes on like writing. There was one
Mm.
by Neil, is it Neil Gutzman or something, and Joyce Carol Oates.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and they have like similar things of like writers, and they are more old school, right? So
Mm.
they'll write and then they have to go find the publisher,
Mm.
right, and pitch their book. And their advice was almost like, write your story while you're pitching the book. Start writing the other one because that first one might not even get picked up. So just keep it going. Like, but that's if you want to almost be like a professional
Mm.
writer. Like for me, my background is engineering. I make music. I'm an entrepreneur. The writing was more of something that has just been developing over time.
Nice. And what in terms of like the audiobook, because I know that's
Hmm.
a big part of, well, I know that you did that as well, like made it
Yeah,
into an audiobook. And so I'm curious, like what was that experience
it was.
like?
Hmm.
And yeah.
Oh man, it was very interesting. Um, we're in the pandemic.
Mm.
I had to record this. I think I started recording this in July. So I published the book in April, right?
Mm.
Um, you know, try to publicize that, market that a little bit, and then in July, let's say August, I started recording the audiobook.
Mm.
And basically, you just have equipment in the house. You have a good microphone, good pop filter, right,
Mm-hmm.
and get going, right. So what one thing is they coach you on how to make sure you know the what you're putting out there sounds crisp, right.
Mm.
So when I first started, I had the book on my table and going through like each page and I'm
Mm.
saying the words, and I got the feedback like, the sound of the page turning is distracting. So
Yeah.
so you want to look at the book on your laptop, right? And it. And while I was doing this, I was kind of rocking back and forth on my chair. They were like, "No, the chair, you can hear the chair. Do it again." So it took about like maybe 5 tries to eventually be like good to go. Like even there was a time I recorded like 10 minutes, and there was like a siren at the back outside. They were like, "No sirens." I was just like, "Oh man." So the process was not tedious. It was just a new learning process. So for recording wasn't too hard for me because of the music. I'm not so intimidated by a microphone or recording my voice. I've done that several times that I'm not like cringing when I hear my voice. Um, but controlling the outside factors was something I couldn't do. Like they were building there was a building that was going up right here, and a lot of construction is going on in Oakland.
Yeah.
So I can record
Yeah.
for entire morning, and I was trying to plan, okay, maybe during lunchtime. Eventually I had to start recording like at 1 a.m. when everybody was sleeping. And I was just like, I just need to knock this thing out. Drinking a lot of water. They advise, just do 1 hour a day, rest your voice. Man, I was just like, nah, I just need to finish this right now. So I was doing like 4 hour sprints and just trying to get it going. And it was I enjoy the format because I feel like with voice you can hear like some sentiments that the page can't really give. And I'm actually enjoying marketing the audiobook a little bit more too, because almost like, oh, you want it, it can be in your ears like right away. Like you don't have to ship it, you don't have to print it, like you can listen to it right away. And it's just, and also just looking at the trends now with how people are moving more towards audio. um it's it's just something that I'm watching, like how books are going to even evolve. Because to be honest, even when I was writing press play, one of the formats of getting words to paper was dictation. So there's this app called Author.ai. So if you download that app, right, and you just dictate your thoughts instead of trying to write things down, it transcribes this thing in real time, right? So you take that, you copy that text and put it down, and then you go edit, right? So it's almost like going from audio to text, and now text back to audio. It's very interesting what authors will be doing with their voice. I'm very curious to see how that in the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah. So did you use that app? And how? I'm really curious because I don't.
You should try it.
Yeah, I don't know if I like have like I'm trying to think if I have the words in my head or if they come when I'm writing. So did you? How did you? Did you find you were just able to kind of like, I don't know, if you felt more free doing it that way?
To be honest, it actually is not. I don't know if I'll say if more free. It was just different formats, maybe taking out away from when you're stuck from writing. At least if I need to move forward, let me just dictate what I have to say. Yeah. If I'm going for a walk, let me just record this right now. I don't have to be at my desk when I'm recording. It helped with interviews when I was interviewing people and just record what we were saying so I can go back. The problem with that is different accents, so it doesn't really pick up. It doesn't really pick up everything. But for it to be efficient, you have to have almost structured questions that you want to answer. So you say, all right, I want to answer these 4 questions, and you think about the answer, and then you know, kind of you either ask someone to ask you that question or you ask yourself the question and hit record. So that when you're taking that, let's say, raw material and copying it over to a Word document, at least it's somewhat structured. Because talking, we have this conversational like tone where you kind of, at least for me, I'll stop mid sentence and just start on a new a new trajectory. But it pushes you to actually get stuff down. That's the good thing, and kind of staying out of your head, because one thing I noticed with writing is a very lonely experience. Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize how lonely it was. You know, making music, even though a lot of times I do that on my own. At least there are tunes around. You're hearing things. The writing, man, is just like you and yourself and that thing in your mind telling you, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Why you write? You know?
Yeah, it's actually really weird when you like deconstruct it. It's like I'm just sitting here like listening to voices, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Um,
but you should try it out if you have a
mm,
chance. At least just
mm.
so basically, the main premise around that is what example did the professor use? It was like Plato or Socrates, one of these philosophers, was not literate. Basically, they couldn't write. So
Wow, didn't know that.
yeah, I had no clue.
Mm,
So they dictate, and
mm,
a scribe is the one writing what they're saying. So it was
mm.
like you could use that same thing in this modern world that we're living in, and dictate your thoughts. And since we have this AI powered
Mm.
transcriber, some
Yeah.
people can get out books faster than others. Some people that don't want to write and just want to dictate. So it's an interesting way to produce.
Yeah, definitely. Have you tried it for the fiction story or
No,
only the non-fiction?
only the nonfiction. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think fiction is different, and to be honest, it was I'm fine. I found it maybe even more difficult because
Mm,
you're kind of creating a world that does not exist from your imagination. So there's no like linear thought process. It's
mm,
just like, oh, okay, if these two people are having this conversation, this person will say this, and I expect them to say this, and then there's this like going back and forth.
mm,
If I was dictating that, I don't know how in particular I'll do that. As opposed to maybe nonfiction, you have more of a structure of like, okay, I'm going to say a paragraph about why music helps people build empathy. And then I'm
mm,
going to put in like an interview of a musician talking about how they're building empathy. And so I can kind of, dictate some of these things. But I haven't tried the voice thing with the fictional story. But then again, with the fictional story, I already had 3 years of material. So
yeah. So you're just like at the
yeah,
editing
yeah,
like
yeah,
point.
yes.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Was there a particular kind of like when you were interviewing these musicians, are they from a particular genre or was it quite varied? Like how did you kind of think about who you wanted to include?
Yeah, so mainly music that I like. So it was
Mm,
mainly hip hop,
mm,
reggae, Afro beats. Those are the people I was reaching out
mm,
to. Most of the people that I actually got to interview were more African musicians. So
mhm,
people from Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, um, and those are the people that I put like their insights in the book.
mm,
Some of the other big time musicians I did, instead of like primary interviews, you can do secondary interviews, which is something I
mm,
also learned. So
mm,
second primary interview is basically you're interviewing the person that you want to put in the book, right?
mhm,
A secondary interview is when you go and find public footage of them saying things about the topic. So
mm,
basically, looking for what Bob Marley has to say about the power of music, and then quoting him from a video that was made in 1968, and but also referencing your source. So a lot of bigger time musicians that didn't respond to my Instagram my Instagram message. Uh, I just kind of watched interviews of them and put some of the insights into the book from like YouTube clips and podcast interviews.
Nice. Um, And is there like an album that you would recommend everybody to, every writer to listen
Every
to?
writer,
Yeah.
man, I thought about there's so many, but the one I'll say is there's a music producer called Jay Dilla.
Mm.
He has passed away, but he released an album called Donuts. So Donuts, Donuts, and it's just album with just beats, right? No
Mm-hmm.
lyrics, nothing. I would advise anybody that is just looking to zone out and type away. That's a good one. But actually, more interestingly, the one that works for me is actually not an album, right? So
Mm.
I go on YouTube, right? The same producer or any producer I like, but let's use Jay Dilla for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I find a beat that is nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's the name of the beats. Let's call it. I don't know. Which one do I listen to? There's one called Dreamy, right?
Okay.
Right. So on YouTube, you write J Dilla
Mm.
Dreamy and then
Mm-hmm.
type in homework edits. So
Okay.
so basically, some people on YouTube, right? They take a beat that maybe is just
Mm.
2 minutes long and they loop it for 1 hour and
Mm.
call it homework edits, meaning music you can
Mm.
do homework to, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I just put that on for 1 hour, and if I decide to write for 30 minutes, I just it's the same thing
Mm.
over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. No
Mm.
lyrics because lyrics are very distracting. Trying to
Mm.
like type words and then hear someone talking, saying, singing something, I find it's distracting. But just your thoughts and the music in the background in the same loop over and over again has been very, very helpful. So I always find those homework edits on YouTube to be very helpful in terms of writing.
Nice. I didn't know about homework edits.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. No,
You should
that's
check it
cool.
out.
Yeah, because I feel like I've really over listened to like Spotify's focus playlist or whatever, and I'm like, I need something better.
Yeah, so
Um, and also, is there a book that you would recommend every writer to read?
not really. For me, I don't even at this point I'm a published author, so but I don't consider myself like, oh, I'm a writer. I don't know why, because I didn't go out to write. Like I didn't, there are a lot of people that man, they studied this thing in school, became journalists. They like this is
Yeah.
their profession, right?
Mm.
For me, it started off as I wanted to make a mixtape and then write the story, and then I'm here writing this book. Um, so I didn't really go into like the process. What's the process of writing?
Mm.
Um, but when I was on the path to publishing the book, I went and looked at. I think I was moving and I was looking at some old boxes, and I realized like I had journals that I've had since like 2000 and I don't know, maybe 2000. What year was it? 2010,
Oh.
2009. So I apparently no, I had been journaling for
Mm.
almost
Mm.
like a decade at this point, right? Um, but leading to that, there were a lot of books I was reading that, when you're just in this stage of like self-discovery, you're
Mm.
reading all this at least spiritual books, you're reading
Mm-hmm.
things about philosophy. The one I liked was that's related to writing and those creative endeavors is The Artist's Way.
I love that book. That changed my
Okay,
life. Yeah.
yeah.
I
What's
was
her name? Julia Cameron or what was it?
yeah, Julia Cameron. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like, when you started to say, I was like, I wonder if you're gonna say The Artist's Way. Like, yes, yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I really like the process because
Mm.
I think her thing is more about process over output, like
Mm.
focusing on the process and the journey and writing as a way not to just write a book, but as a way to find yourself. Um, I really liked just recently. I kind of reconnected with the whole morning pages.
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
write
Yeah,
2 pages,
yeah.
just clear, just let it out. And I'll say over the last 3 years, I've made it an effort to. So I have this habit tracker on my phone,
Mm.
and I try to on it is just I get a reminder at 9 p.m. say asking have you um, made music or written for at least 15 minutes today.
Ah.
And so I just kind of push myself to either make music or write for 15 minutes, which the best time to do that for me is in the morning, but sometimes I don't. But that reminder is very good. Then I just sometimes just type stuff on my phone. But it's just trying to get in this habit of just write so that when it's time to actually write, yeah, I'm not overthinking. I already have the kind of, will I say, momentum to be like, oh, this is what I do every day. Like, there's nothing special about this morning. There's nothing special about what I'm about to write. It's just another day. Just do it, right? So that really helped. And I know when I was writing the book, I just doubled down on that system, and I called it AIS. Um, Basically, so what it was just sit down and write for 15 to 30 minutes in the morning before I start doing all my other work, and whatever comes out comes out. If it's one line, if it's three words, if it's a full page. And you know how what happens is, yeah, sometimes it's a paragraph. Sometimes you end up with almost 2 pages, and you're like, oh, I want to keep going.
Yeah.
I want to keep going. But yeah, it was so the system, it was basically ass in seat. Just sit down, put your ass in the seat for 15 to 30 minutes, and whatever comes out on that page, you've done your job. And that was a way for me to kind of hack the fear of, oh, does this make sense or not? And so that, I would say, going back to your question, the main thing would be that the artist way. There may be another one I just read recently, Making Ideas Happen by Scott. Is this Scott Belkin? But it's not particularly about writing. It's just about making your ideas, bring your ideas, making them tangible. What else? Creative confidence. That is also not writing, but it's the same, overcoming the barrier of you, everybody can create. We're all creative. So so just the creativity happens in action and practice, not in moments of inspiration or whatever it is. At least for me, it doesn't really come as inspiration. It comes more from just doing. So those were, they did recommend some books in my class, like Stephen King. Apparently, I think wrote something called On Writing, Stephen King's On Writing or something. But I haven't read any of those. So, but those three books. So mainly the Artist Way.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Oh, wait. Sorry, just before you. There was a book back in the days. I remember from 2009. I just remember now. Oh man, what's it called? Writing Through the Bones or something. Writing.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it was a very small book, but I just remembered this, and that also helped with this journaling process. So Writing Through the Bones. Do you mind if I quickly check?
No, yeah, please do.
Okay. Writing or writing down the bones or something. Yeah, Writing Down the Bones. Yep. Freeing the Writer Within. Yeah.
Writing Down the Bones.
By Natalie Goldberg. Yep.
Nice. Oh, I have to check that one out.
Yeah, check it out. I remember, but those were between that and the Artist Way were kind of books that I was like, okay, just keep writing.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I like discovered the Artist Way about a year ago, actually, when I just first moved to Oakland, and game changer. And I've done morning pages pretty well, particularly in the pandemic. I think it's easier now. Like, when I was like on the bar, it's super helpful. I think and I like how you put that, like creativity happens in action and practice. I think that's really nice.
Yeah. It does. That's the big lesson I think I'm learning, because I've never really liked the idea of creativity being for just, you know, certain people um or people in this, you know, I'm in this creative industry, and I think everybody's creative. Like the thoughts, the being human itself is creative, you know. The fact that you can think of things, almost create out of nothing, even though it's not creating out of nothing, you're creating out of all the stimulus that is coming to you. But everybody has the capability of doing it. And, you know, part of even writing this book was a testament to that. Like, hey, I'm not a writer, but hey, I created this book. You can also do it too, you know. So, but the main thing is the action, the pen to paper, whatever it is, typing, writing on your phone, whatever is dictating into an AI app. Definitely the action is the most important.
Yeah, I'm curious how your character in 2049
Mm-hmm.
manages to create the story. I feel like there could be some really like weird ways that
Yeah,
they
yeah.
could create like I don't know, just thoughts straight from the brain into
I know.
That's the next level.
That's the next level, man. Just think about it and it's already on paper.
Yeah. That's kind of scary though.
Yeah, I know. It is. Yeah, it is.
Well, yeah, part of doing this blog is also just getting a chance to meet other people who are interested in writing, and
yeah,
and please let me know if when you're ready to start crowdsourcing for this for the fiction book as well. So
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. Nice.
All right. Well, it was really great to meet you.
Yeah, it was very nice to